Welcome back to the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast, a weekly podcast where we look at the history and development of video games. I'm your host, RxDude22, and welcome to Season 3 of the podcast. The theme for this season is my top 25 all-time Nintendo Entertainment System games. We're going to do the countdown from 25 all the way down to my favorite NES title of all time for the podcast for this season, starting with number 25. That game is Super Dodgeball. Here is some information about it. Super Dodgeball is a sports video game developed and published by Technos Japan that was for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1989. It is loosely based on the 1987 arcade game of the same name, which was also developed by Technos. Like its arcade counterpart, it was released in Japan as part of the Kunio-kun series. In Japan, a PC port of the Famicom version of Neketsu Koko Dodgeball Buu was released on October 17, 2003 as a budget-priced release. It was also included in the Game Boy Advance compilation Kunio-kun Neketsu Collection 1, released in 2005. Both the Famicom version and the American NES version were released for the Wii, Nintendo 3DS, and Wii U Virtual Console for their respective territories. The game was also released in Europe for the two latter systems, despite the NES version not being released in Europe. Gameplay. The NES version of the Super Dodgeball expands upon the basic premises of the original arcade version by giving the members of each team individual names and stats. Moreover, in addition to the single-player tournament mode and a two-player versus mode, there's also a free-for-all beanball mode where the 6 members of Team USA fight each other until one remains. The objective of each match is to defeat the rival team by throwing a dodgeball at its members. Each character has a life gauge that is gradually depleted as he gets struck by dodgeballs. When their life reaches 0, they will be eliminated. When a character gets hit, with a life gauge of 3 bars or lower, they will be placed in a tired state, giving the opponent a moment of advantage. Moreover, each has their own stats and 2 different power shots, one which is performed by running and another that is performed during a running jump. World Cup Play. World Cup Play is the game's single-player mode. The player takes control of Team USA as they compete against 8 rival teams in a dodgeball tournament with irregular rules. To win each match, the player must defeat the 3 infield members of the rival team. However, if the 3 infield members of the player's teams are defeated, the player will lose the match. Like in the arcade version, the player starts off in a match against another rival American team and then proceed to face against 7 international teams: England, India, Iceland, China, Kenya, and Japan. The 8th match is against Team USSR. If the player loses at least one of their members during the match with USSR, the game will end after USSR is defeated. If all 3 infield members are still alive, an additional match set in Team USSR's home court will be held against Team Shadow, a clone of Team USA, whose members will be arranged in the same positions as the players. The home courts of Team Iceland's and Team Kenya's are different from those of the other teams. Iceland's court is a slippery field of ice, whereas Kenya's court is a swampland and makes it hard to run. Versus Play. Versus Play is a 2-player competition mode. Both players can choose from any of the 9 teams from the World Cup mode, including the same team as the other player. While both players can change the formation of their teams before each match, there's only one fixed court in this mode. The rules in each match are the same as in World Cup Play. Beanball. Beanball mode is a free-for-all mode that can be played by 1 or 2 players. The player can choose from one of the 6 members of Team USA. The members who are not chosen by the player or players will be controlled by the computer instead. In this mode, each member of Team USA must fight each other on a schoolyard until only one remains. Unlike the courts of the other game modes, there is no infield or outfield and all 6 characters can move in any place they want. The background of the schoolyard changes depending on difficulty setting. On easy, it is set during the day, on normal, it is evening, and on difficult, it is nighttime. Teams. Team USA. The team controlled by the player in World Cup play, as well as Beanball mode, led by Sam Powers. The other members include John Stone, Mike Knopfler, Randy Sting, Bill Flash, and Steve Sato. Team Pro All-Stars. The other American team, led by Jack, who is its most powerful member and holds the ball most of the time. Although their physical strength are low, they have good defense and can intercept many shots. Their specialty, however, is ball breaking, making David, a Type E player in their group, have the highest control of the ball in the game. Jack will use his upper shot. Their stage is set atop a building with the Statue of Liberty on the background. Team England. Led by James, a team with a shooting technique as their specialty, making Henry, Type F, of their team have the best shooting technique out of everyone. Although they have high stamina, they become weak when stricken, and agility is not very high either. James uses his aerial power shot, the Tsunami. Their stage is set near the banks of the River Thames, with Tower Bridge on the background. Their theme music is loosely and mostly based on the song Get Back by the Beatles, with references to I Want to Hold Your Hand and A Hard Day's Night. Team India. Led by Rajiv, a team with low stamina but unusually high agility and ball breaking skills. However, their specialty is their high resistance. They have no firm strategy, and while they pass the ball to outfield members often, it is easier to steal their passes compared to other teams such as China. Unfortunately, due to their defensive specialty, Swami, Type B of their group, is the most resilient character in the game by default, as a super shot only causes him to lose 2 points of health. Rajiv uses the Stinger most of the time. Their stage is set in front of the Taj Mahal. Team Iceland. Led by Helgi. They have high ball power and good resistance. Their speed is slow. Their specialty is energy. Helgi himself has the highest energy levels in the game at 64. They're a team that relies on individual power play. They very rarely pass the ball to each other or crouch to avoid shots. Helgi uses his ground warp shot. Their stage is a field of ice with nobody but penguins in the background. Team China. A team with low defense, but they have great agility. Their specialty is the high catching technique, making Lee, Type C of their group, have the best catching technique. They attempt to distract the players by making good use of jumping passes to outfield teammates, as well as Captain Wang's power shot, the Breaker. They are one of the teams that steals the balls while passing. Their stage is set on a Tiananmen Square. Team Kenya. Led by Yemi. They are a surprisingly well-rounded team with good offense and decent defense. However, their specialty is agility, making Y, Type D of their group, the fastest player in the game. Their offense and defensive strategies consist of using main dashes and jumps. They always shoot immediately when they possess the ball and rarely pass it to each other, and they'll try to steal the ball if the player is passing it to an outfield teammate. Their leader, Yimi, uses the boomerang shot. Their stage is set on an outdoor swampland at sunset. Team Japan. A team mostly relied on their leader. Their specialty is ball power, making the Captain Fuji the strongest player in the game. Fuji always collects the ball and constantly does his arrow shot, the strike down shot. Fuji is placed on the end row of the defensive side. However, its leadership falls apart when Fuji is eliminated. Their stage has Mount Fuji and a few cherry blossom trees on the background. Their theme music is based on Sakura Sakura. Team USSR. An all-around team with balance in offense and defense, led by Boris. Boris likes doing his aerial power shot, the Accelerator. Their stage is set in front of Red Square. Their theme music is based on Katuyasha. Team Shadow. A clone of Team USA, although their sprites are colored white and gray. They appear in the game after the match with Team USSR if the player wins the match with all of its members. Although they have the same formation and physical strength as players teamed during their match with USSR, the rest of their abilities are greater. The player's position cannot be changed before the match with Team Shadow. Their playing pattern is based on any of the 8 previous CPU teams. Regional differences. Like its arcade counterpart, the nationalities of the Japanese and American teams were switched between the 2 versions of the game. In the Famicom version, Team USA and Team Pro All-Stars was originally Neketsu High School and Hanazono High School, respectively, both Japanese teams. Team USSR is the penultimate team in the Famicom version, and whereas their captain sprite is unchanged, their stats are identical to Team Japan in the NES version. On the other hand, Team USA is the final rival team in the Famicom version, and while their captain has the same design as Team Japan's captain in the NES version, their stats are the same as Team USSR's in the NES version. Neketsu Koko Dodgeball Buu was notably the first Famicom game to allow up to 4 players to participate simultaneously. The 2 additional players can participate in beanball mode by plugging in another controller or a multi-controller adapter such as HAL's Joy Pair and Hori's Twin Adapter into the console's expansion port. Since the NES 4-score and NES Satellite were not released yet when the game was made, the NES version only allows up to 2 players. When the player resets the game in the Famicom version, a voice clip of Kunio saying his catchphrase, "Nemen Nayo," which in English means "Don't mess with me," will be played. All information in the podcast today was provided by Wikipedia. And that'll bring an end to episode 33 of the podcast, which is also episode 1 of season 3, where we're counting down my top 25 Nintendo Entertainment System titles of all time. Next week, we'll give you number 24. No teasers here. If you want to see what it is, you got to tune in next week and find out. There's several ways you can check out the podcast. You can watch the video presentation of it on YouTube, or you can listen to it on Spotify or your other favorite listening platform as well. We'll see you guys next week. It's been RxDude22 from the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast signing out. Keep on gaming. See you on the next stream. Be good to each other. And I'll see you on the next podcast next week. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.